Alright, this is a fun little video on how you take one of these saws apart. The reason I'm taking this apart is for shipping it. It's got to go down South America, so it's got to ship in as small a container as possible. So I'm going to take the base off, going to take the column off, and the motor's going to be here, but the blade and the blade guard are going to be taken off. Those are easy parts. The tough part is getting this column out of here. Okay, so basically you got to turn it upside down. You'll see two gears under here. Okay, there are keepers on those gears, those little keepers right there. They're snap rings that go onto here. There's this little part here. This snap ring actually retains that part. Okay, so I didn't have to actually take this ring out, but I was showing it, and I've taken this one out because this one holds the gear on. So once you have that out of there, this shaft will come out of here quite easily. So gears out, shaft removed. Then I'm going to undo the column. Here are the screws for the column. They screw to this, and I'm going to have the column removed, and I'm going to remove the column from the main part of the saw. Okay, so now I've removed the crank out of here. Okay, I took the gear out. It was actually against this gear here. Oh, there's a washer here. Okay, so this washer is going to go behind the gear right here. There's a keeper right here. There's the large keeper's on this end. There's another washer on this end, which goes on this side of the column. So one goes on that side of the column, one goes on that side of the column. I'm going to put this washer back in there. Okay, that's removed. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the handle apart so that it knocks down flat, and this is already loose. So you got this little guy here. It's a hex head bolt that goes in there. This just comes loose of this. These have registers on them. These have registers on them, so it's flat on one side, round on the other, so that the gear is registered onto there, and so is this wheel. Okay, and this is a coupler, so it actually couples right in there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. I've already removed 3 bolts. There's actually 6 bolts. So there's 2 back here. There's one that goes up into here, one that goes into there, and then there's 2 more back there. And I don't know if you can see those. Okay, you should be able to see them now. Anyway, and I also took the blade and the guard off the saw because I didn't want to have to mess with it after everything was done, because there was going to be no way of making sure that saw was sturdy, and you know, you're dealing with a sharp blade here, so it's a good idea to do that. And we're going to go ahead and continue. So now what I'm going to do is there's actually bolts on the top and bolts on the bottom. So oh, by the way, the bolts that go into the side here, they're actually a different head size than these guys, and also when they go in there, one of these flat washers is going to be on one side of the sheet metal, and the other one's going to be on the other side of the sheet metal. Well, one's going to go against the metal of this column, and then the other one's going to go on the other side of the sheet metal. So that's the way it's actually going to be bolted in there. And then there's a lock washer there, and then there's the nut right there. Okay, so I'm going to remove the other ones now. So let me go ahead and take this guy off. And I'll just grab this. And then I'm going to disengage the column from the base of the model, then I'll just be dealing with the head after that. So pretty basic stuff here. And again, the idea is to get this thing to be as compact as possible, because space is money when you're talking about shipping things to a foreign country. And, oh yeah, I want to put this back in here so that I know that goes in there. I'm probably going to tape this onto here so that none of those parts get lost. So anyhow, getting back to this. This guy, So again, you have a bolt, 2 flat washers, a lock washer, and a nut, and I'm going to end up putting them back into the registers where they go, just so that the final end user knows where everything goes. I'll probably put them into the frame just so that they know where they go. It's already been undone. It's already loosened these guys so I didn't have to bust my knuckles on camera. Oops. And I took that guy out. Probably should have lowered the column before I actually took all the works out, because now I'm going to have to put it back in there and crank that column to where it's as compact as it's going to go. Okay, now it should come loose of the stand. Another one in there. Oh, it's got to go forward because it's backwards. Yeah, so it has to actually go forward because it's going to end up engaging the stand. So let me see if I can get it to go forward. There we go. Okay. So now I've worked the stand free here. I don't know why they had this on here. I'm going to get rid of that. So now the base is removed. As you can see, the base is removed. It's got a lot of dirt in it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten this column by cranking this, and then I'm going to take the column out of the machine so that all it's going to have is the motor on it. And then I'm going to end up packing the column alongside of this here so that everything packs into a nice small little crate. Okay, so now I've removed the bolts, or I've loosened the bolts here that take the base part off, so this is just going to lift right out and get this out of here. Okay, now there's a snap ring that holds this column onto the main part of the radial arm saw head. I don't know if it's a friction fit. If it is, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get it out of there, but I don't imagine it is, because this is actually a swiveling column, so I should be able to pull it out without having to use some type of elaborate puller. Hopefully, we'll see. All right, we'll be continuing. So just wanted to show that snap ring real quick. It's a very large snap ring, so I'll have to get I've got snap ring pliers. So that's the snap ring right there that holds this column right here to the arm of the unit. Oh yes, and while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and shrink that column. So I just want to make this part go up against the head here. Okay, so I can do this by hand, just by turning this wheel. Let's see here. I hope that's expanding it. I thought I was going to have to put the gear back in there, but so it's actually shrinking that now, and I won't stop until it's gone. Is it shrinking it or is it expanding it? Oh, it's expanding it. No, it's shrinking it. Okay. So I won't stop until it's actually until the column has shrunk as much as it can, so it's going to be the most compact piece that I can pack. Okay, so the base is off. Okay, I've taken this bottom piece off of here. Okay, the screws are still in it. I'm just going to keep those in place. Now I'm going to take this piece off. This piece actually just pops right out of here. Okay, and there actually are 3 screws in the top of the head here, so I got to go down and get those screws out. We get these 2 screws out, and that should be able to remove this rest of this plate, and that way I should be able to freely access where the arm meets the stand. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, you'll also want to take note that there are actually two bolts that hold this back plate onto this, and then the top plate is held on by the two nuts above that I was showing. I said 3 nuts earlier, but it was 2 nuts. I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. Anyhow, make sure when this goes back together that these are the power cords here. They pass through the chassis right there and right there. One is for the motor that, you know, makes this thing go back and forth, and the other one is for the actual saw itself, and they come out over here. So they go through the chassis, come out over there. So, okay, just a notation. Okay, so I've stripped all the pieces off of it. The bottom part, the dial, the back part, and the top part where the dial indicator is. So that's what it looks like. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up taking this column loose by taking these screws out. You can see that there's a collar fit here. Take this out here. There's actually bolts that go through here. Okay, so I'm going to remove, or nuts that go through here. I'm going to remove these. I'm going to put the nuts back in, and then that way everybody's going to be able to find out where everything goes once it's unpacked. And this should take the arm loose from the column. There are a couple of things that you'll want to note about this part of the disassembly. First of all, the screws that screwed this down into here are now, I'm actually locating them up here, so they're going to be put in there so that you can locate them, because I'm not going to be able to keep them in here very easily. Second of all, these screws, when I bring them out, it's going to take the column loose from here, so that's going to make this column come loose. This is the registry that snaps into place at 45-degree angles when you move the arm, when you swing the arm. So I should be able to just take these out. I'm going to put the hardware all back together back in here. These are like main bearings basically on an engine. I want to keep them in the same direction, so I'm going to note where they go, and they're going to be bolted back in. Oh yes, and one more thing of note. When they go back together, you're going to have to use blue Loctite here, because these are thread sealed with blue Loctite. So just get that Loctite or thread sealer and put these back together so that this doesn't come loose, because you won't ever want this to come loose. Also note that the top bolts go in bolt top here, and then the other ones go in the back way, so that they're clocked 180 degrees different. So this guy here is it's actually got a square head on it. That's what goes into, that's what goes into the back side of this. And there's actually a register on there so that it stays still when you're cranking, you know, to get the torque value on there. There probably is a torque value to this, so I would guess probably about 8 or 10 pounds. Probably what it is. You have to look in the manual, but I'm pretty sure you don't want to do it much tighter than that, because it is a friction fit. Okay, one last thing here. So the column's ready to be pulled loose of the head unit. This is the bottom main here. I've kept it upright. I know how it goes. I know how it's positioned and clocked. There's grease that goes on here, so this is probably axle grease on here, some type of heavy molybdenum grease, I'm guessing. The top one goes in the top. Remember that there's thread locker. It appears that it's only on the top bolts that the thread locker goes. And now this is going to pull loose. Now when it pulls loose, there's actually a piece in here that is this piece right here that will pull out. The way to know how this goes in there is a channel right here that matches the channel down there. Okay, so nope, I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. This is it right here. This is the way it goes. And the reason I know that is and it fits right in here. The reason I know that is because there are tool marks on the back from this, which is probably the lever. Yeah, it's the lever that locks this into position into the 90 and 45 degree angles, and so that's going to go in there. I'm going to probably, I don't think I'm going to put this up in here. I think I'm going to make note of it and put it into maybe on the column or something. I've got to figure out a way so that you're going to know where that goes. All right, and that's it. So the column is now free from the unit, and I'm going to go ahead and start figuring out the packaging on this thing. Okay, so as for the piece that goes up against the upright, I'm going to tape this in here so that it's in position, so that you're aware of how it actually goes in there. So there's going to be tape going along here holding this in position.